Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Lisa, and today in this video I'm going to share with you my story how I learned English. As I've said it earlier and mentioned lots of times in my previous videos, English is not my native language. My native language is Russian, and in this video I'm going to talk about my journey of learning English as a second language. Okay, let's start. I started to learn English when I was in my second grade of school in elementary school, but let's be honest, English at school, English at Russian schools and the regular schools as a subject, it's not very good. In Russian schools, math, all the science classes are very good and the level of education you get for the science classes is very high. But if we talk about languages, especially in my case, when I talk about English, it's not the best. You cannot actually get to the level where you want to be. You cannot get even to intermediate or upper intermediate just studying English at school. We used to have it once or twice per week sometimes, 40 minutes class, but as I've said earlier, the level of those classes, it wasn't high at all. And when I was in my 6th grade, I started going to the English classes with my tutor. That's where I actually started to learn English, not in my 2nd or 3rd grade of school, but when I started doing and learning it with my tutor. So I had a tutor, I had English twice per week, 1-hour classes, and she would structure and she would come up with the strategies which would work for me the most. And I had this tutor from my 6th grade until my 11th grade. In Russia we have 11 grades, so about 5 years, and she actually helped me to prepare for my English exam, for my IELTS exam, which I had to take in order to get to the Canadian university. With her, after 1 year, she invited me and other students of hers to go to Malta, and we went with her to Malta for a couple weeks, for 2 or 3 weeks, to actually study English. But I would say it was my first experience actually of going somewhere abroad and study English. I used to go to the summer camps abroad. I won once a trip to Greece to the kids camp when I was 9 or 10 years old, and it was almost for free. But this was the first time when I actually went to study English somewhere abroad to another country. I met there lots of great people with whom I still communicate. Even like nowadays, it's been, maybe I was at that time 11 or 12 years old, so it's been more than 10 years ago, and I still in touch with some of those kids with whom I met in Malta when I was a kid, when I was like 11 or 12 years old. So that was my first experience of learning English abroad. And then I came back home and I started actually going to different summer camps to study English. I would still continue my classes with my tutor, and I would participate in different competitions. I don't know if some of you have heard, there is, I don't know if it still exists, but there is kind of a program, it's called Flex. It's when you participate in this competition, in this language competition, there are different rounds as well, and you can get a chance to go actually and study for 1 year to the United States and live in a host family and go to the local school. So I participated in this program, and I even got to the last round, and I actually won it, and I was getting ready to go for 1 year to study in the United States, but I decided not to go because I would lose 1 academic year in my school. This 1 year in the United States, it wouldn't count. So I decided not to go because I wanted to graduate from school earlier, not 1 year later. So I didn't go. And I started going to other countries to study English. Second country after Malta, it was actually Canada. It was in 2011. I was 13, 14 years old, and I went to Canada, to Toronto, to study English. I stayed at the University of Toronto for 7 or 8 weeks. My parents always wanted to send me for as long as possible so I can actually study English. And I would go to the places where there were not a lot of Russian speaking kids so I could actually practice English. I spent 7 or 8 weeks at the University of Toronto at U of T studying English. It was an intensive program. I had 6 or 7 hours of English every day except the weekend, and it was actually my first time in Canada. Then I went to the United Kingdom, I think in 2013, and then I went in 2014. I also went to the summer camp. One summer camp was in London. Then I used to live in Bristol, and I was actually studying the academic subjects, and I took lots of very cool and interesting courses, and I stayed in a host family as well. In one of those camps, which was in London, I went with my English teacher, another English teacher. As I've said earlier, I went again to the UK in 2014. So I contacted my host family again because I got a very nice family, and I decided to go and visit them again. So next year in 2014 I decided that I want to go and live with them again. And the host mom, she was very nice, and she also was studying English with me. We were going shopping with her. It was very great. And then in 2015 I went to the United States. I went by myself. I went to Miami for 2 weeks. I studied at Kaplan, then moved to Philadelphia, and I stayed there for 1 month as well in a summer camp. And then I moved to New York for 1 or 2 weeks. I don't actually remember how long it was, but I was also practicing and studying English. I had an experience of going to different countries and actually being able to speak with the native speakers and practice my English. What I mentioned after all those trips, the hugest result I got and the huge improvement I got in my language and my speaking skills, it was when I went to the United States. Because when I came back home, my tutor, she saw a huge improvement in my language, the way I was speaking, the way I was building my sentences, pronunciation improved, and I was the person who was always afraid to speak. I didn't want to speak. If somebody asks me, okay, I can answer and say something, but I wouldn't start the conversation first. Right now, it's not a problem for me at all. I can start even small talk on the streets, in the supermarkets, anywhere. It doesn't matter for me. It's not a problem at all. But at that time, it was very hard for me to start because I was shy. I wasn't confident at all. After the United States, I came back home and I wasn't shy. I wasn't afraid of anything. I was ready to speak and talk with anybody, with anyone, and that was a huge improvement. It was a huge improvement in my speaking. When I went to the United States, I wanted to take lots of grammar classes in order to prepare for my IELTS exam, but in the United States, the TOEFL exam is more popular than actually the IELTS exam, so I didn't find and I didn't have any IELTS courses, so I was improving my speaking. So yeah, when I came back home from the United States, it was 2014, and in September I started preparing for my IELTS exam. And my exam was in December, so I basically had 3 months to prepare for my exam. And my tutor, she didn't have enough time to actually schedule me that often. She only had time for me because she was so busy, twice per week. And it wasn't enough for me. That's why I had to find another tutor in my city with whom I would actually practice speaking and with whom I would practice listening. So with her, I was studying and preparing for reading section and for writing section. And with my another tutor, with him, I was preparing for speaking and for listening. And I had English classes every single day, even sometimes on the weekend, in order to pass my IELTS exam successfully. I took it in December, as I've said earlier, and I got the highest mark in my speaking section, and overall I got about 7.0 or 7.5 as my total grade for my IELTS exam, which helped me to get to the Canadian university, straight to the Canadian university. I didn't go to any international colleges, nothing. I went straight to university. Yeah, it was a bit challenging, but still I made it. And if to say in brief, I would say that, as I've mentioned earlier in this video, I was, and I'm still a little bit a shy person, and it was hard for me to actually start speaking and practice speaking. I would also recommend, if you have kids, if you are a teenager, if you're planning to study English or any language, if you want to go to different summer camps or to take different language courses abroad, please make sure that there are not a lot of people from your own country because that's what actually my parents did to me. And sometimes when I was a teenager, I hated them so much for this. I would call my mom and say, what I am doing here, I want to go back home, please take me back, because I hated the environment so much. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any Russian speaking people around me, and I had some weird neighbors sometimes, but after a week I would get used to it, and I actually remember all my summer camps with a huge love and joy. If you actually want to go abroad and take language courses, please make sure that you communicate with people who are outside of your own country. I think it's very popular when there's a huge group, let's say Russian-speaking kids, and they go like 10 or 20 kids, it takes them to the summer camp somewhere in Europe. They're not going to benefit from those trips, from those language courses, because they're going to communicate with the kids from their own native country. So please make sure, that's what my parents did to me, is they would always send me somewhere where I wasn't able to speak Russian, where I can sometimes forget Russian, and that's what happened to me when I was in the United States, because when I went to Miami, I went there by myself, and the only people with whom I was talking Russian were my parents on the phone. I didn't have anybody for the 2 weeks around me who would speak my native language. So that's kind of a brief story how I I used to learn and practice English. Overall, by myself, I always enjoy studying different languages. As I have mentioned before in my previous video, I used to learn French, I used to learn Spanish and Mandarin, or Chinese, sometimes people call it in different countries. And I find it's very interesting and not very challenging for me. So if you have any questions about my journey of learning English, I can definitely respond to any questions of yours in the comments below. And let me know, maybe you want to know more about my journey. Thank you again for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel, click the like button, share my video if you like it and enjoy, and don't forget to ask all your questions if you have, and write all your comments below. And thank you again. See you next week. Bye bye.